Hey everyone, welcome to the MindMesh podcast. My name's Chayton, and it's just me once again. Well, not once again. You understand what I mean. It's just me. I'm here, and we're just gonna, I have an idea for this episode. I know back when this whole pandemic thing started, I said that we might be doing something different. You might see or hear. Not see. This isn't a video podcast. This isn't a vodcast, if you will. That we might try some different stuff. And I think I've reached that point where I'm like, you know what? I'm kind of out of fun little ideas, so let's do something weird. So for this episode, it might be slightly shorter. But I would just like to tell a few stories. Some nice summertime stories. Some nice summertime spooky stories. Some of them are spooky. Some of them aren't. Some are just like summer experiences that I've had that I don't believe that I've told on the podcast before. With that being said, I guess we can just jump right into it. Yeah. So I like to start stuff on a dark note and kind of work my way up to the more comedic, I guess. If that works. So, me and Fish have talked about kind of our beliefs in the supernatural when it comes to ghosts. And I don't think that I've ever touched on this, but I do have a somewhat belief that my family is spiritually inclined, or at least the women in my family are. And this kind of stems from just living with my mom and my sister over the years. They have a keen sense of when someone close to us, be it a family member or a close family friend, are going to pass. And the way that they know this is actually via their dreams. It's actually quite interesting for the sole fact that my mom and my sister have had very similar dreams on similar nights that a family member has passed away. Or they'll have like similar experiences with completely different people. But it all stems down to like either the person has gotten very sick or the person has passed away or something has happened to this person. And for whatever reason, they will never have a dream about this person. Then one night they will. And it's always like a really weird experience. They wake up and they learn this news and they're like, that's so weird. I just had a dream about that person. They're very similar dreams. The best way I can describe it is that the way that my mom and my sister have, I've only heard it once from my sister, and I've heard it several times from my mother. Basically, it's like a goodbye dream. It's they're chilling out, relaxing, shooting some b-ball outside. They were cool. That's not the actual lyrics. But the dream is as simple as they see the person and they're just like waving bye or saying bye or like telling them goodbye. Like it's really a goodbye dream. And then they wake up and then they learn the news. For my sister, it was my grandmother when she passed. She said that like the night before she had a dream where she saw her, and it's literally as simple as that. It's nothing complex or anything. It's just like a short, 5-second moment in their entire dreamscape. But it's like the one thing that they really resonate with and what they remember when they wake up. Usually because they learn pretty quickly after they wake up. Because now they know that this is like a thing. They like ask questions whenever they see people in their dreams. So it's kind of weird in that sense. Because, you literally know if they like text you or something. They're like, hey, have you heard from so-and-so, yada, yada, yada. Like, usually it's not that, because usually it's like a family member, so they don't have to text anyone. It's just like down the rabbit hole of the family chain, word gets round. But with my mom, I mean, she's told me countless stories about how when like our great-grandparents passed away, or friends or close family friends have passed away. She's told me several times that she's had dreams about those people. And then next morning she wakes up, she finds out that they passed away. So that's a weird, spiritual side of my family. It hasn't happened recently. We haven't had we haven't had any family members pass away recently or close family friends. So knock on wood. Um but yeah, so that's a weird spiritual side. And my mom's had a lot of those experiences. I don't actually know if I've told this story on the podcast, but I'll go into it just because my mom's a freak in the best sense possible. She told me one night I was eating I think it was in middle school, maybe middle school. She'd like my sister was already up and she was eating breakfast, and I went to the kitchen, poured myself a bowl of cereal, and I was sitting there eating, and then my mom asked me if I had gone into her room that night to ask her something. I was like, no. And she's like, that is so weird. And I was like, why? She's like, Chayton said the same thing, that she didn't get up last night. And we were both like, well, what happened? And she said that she was like facing away from the door, and she could hear like behind her like a small like child's voice going, Mama, Mama. And so she like turned around and like was opening her eyes and like, what? Hello? And because, you know, motherly instincts, as soon as you hear like a child going mama, you're like instantly like, back to reality. Oh, there goes gravity. And so she turned around and no one was there. And she was just like, well, that's kind of weird. So she just wanted to make sure that she wasn't insane. So but in the long run, it made her seem more insane. But yeah, so let's just say my family, especially the females, are oddly spiritually inclined. And then of course I've told my shadow stories about seeing shadows and stuff like that. So maybe my family's more attuned to that stuff. And speaking of attuned to the supernatural, the second story on the docket, fucking weird, is dogs and how they'll notice things that we cannot perceive. Yeah, I mean, you know, there's always those like there's like a saying that's like, oh, your dog's barking at dust or barking at nothing, basically. But speaking from experience of watching my dog and actually my family's dog do this sort of stuff, you get to a point where you think maybe it's not dust or a bug or just like maybe it's something that we truly cannot see that they are seeing. And I mean, there's countless, of course, ghost adventures-esque shows that like always talk about how animals are like more reactive to this sort of thing than humans are. So there's this one instance that really pops out into the back of my head, and it was when my girlfriend first moved into the apartment she was living in. She had a roommate. And of course, at the time we had our dog, but I was still in school, so I was not living here. And her roommate also had a dog. And it's weird. The room that is currently my office used to be her roommate's room. And she said, which I'm looking at the corner that she said was odd feeling. There, it's like the back. I don't know. Rooms are weird because you can say the back corner, but all the corners are technically the back corner when you really think about it. 4 dimensions are hard. It's so fucking weird. But she like pointed out a certain corner of the room that she said had an odd vibe to it, and she kept saying that her dog would constantly just stare in that corner and just like not break eye contact with that corner. And it got to the point where she like got sage and shit and like burned it throughout the apartment because she was like kind of freaked out about it. And I mean, I never witnessed that. I never, like, nothing ever weird has ever happened in this apartment per se. I mean, you do have the occasional like odd creak, odd bang, but it's also like it's an apartment complex, so that could also be your neighbors or really anything. It's an apartment complex. Let's just be for real. But I will say there was one night, and I don't remember when, because we've been here several years now. where our dog was laying on the ground in our bedroom, just chilling, doing its own thing. And then all of a sudden, like, it just poked its head up, and it was just like right at attention, just staring at the opposite end of the room. And my girlfriend knows, she like tapped me, and she's like, what the fuck is she doing? And I sat up and I was looking at her. And of course, the room's dark. It's nighttime. Like, we're getting ready for bed. And the dog's just like staring over at the closet. And my girlfriend was like, what's up? And like the dog looks back at us and then looks instantly back at the closet, like right square where she was looking. And then she starts moving her head like she's following something. And that absolutely freaks out my girlfriend. She's like, what is she staring at? What is she following? And I was like, it's probably just something, like, it was, well, I'm holding the saying, I was like, it's probably like a speck of dust or some shit just floating in the air that she's like fixated on. But she did it for a solid like 5-10 minutes. And then she's also done that a few times just in the day, where with the light, you can truly tell there's nothing there, but she'll just be following something with her head. I mean, there have been times where, she's become very guard dog-ish in her age, just because I believe she's picked up on my girlfriend's like kind of anxiety about people breaking in or just wanting protection from stuff. So like if she hears something that we can't hear, she'll instantly be up and like growling, just to warn us. And it's kind of become like a chore in a sense, where if she does so, we just open the bedroom door, open the room that we're in, and we let her go on patrol. And after like 30 seconds of her exploring the place and making sure no one's there, she's right back. She's going back to bed or doing whatever she was doing. And she's like, all right, I'm good. Thank you. But and in retrospect, we don't really know if there wasn't anything, because she has done the same thing when there's literally a bug that she can smell, and she's like following the bug's scent in the air, and then she'll find it like 5 minutes later and she'll eat it, because dog, I don't know, she actually picked that up from my girlfriend's family dog. He loves to chase bugs, torture them, like literally like pounce on them and like flick them around the floor, and then finally eat them once he's done playing with them. It's weird. I don't know how to explain it. With that being said, I believe I'd like to go into an ad break to wrap up this first segment, and the next segment we'll be talking about some more summer fun time stuff, because talking about spooks and specters isn't really a summertime thing. Look, Fish, I need to know something. I need to know. Have you heard?
Yeah.
You have?
Are
you sure?
Possibly. You can tell me though.
Have you heard of Anchor?
Like the thing that's on like boats?
No. Anchor. It's the easiest way to make a podcast. I'll let you explain. You said you knew about it.
Oh yeah. I remember now.
Okay.
It's free.
It's free?
Yeah, there's
like absolutely free. No charge.
No charge. There's creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or your computer.
Wait, phone? You can just pull out your phone
and edit your podcast right from it. And
that's wild. That's absolutely wild. What else does it do?
Well, you can distribute your podcast, or Anchor will distribute your podcast for you.
Where?
So it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and anywhere else. Many more.
Wait, so like Google Podcasts and all of those, you can hear it using
Anchor?
Yeah. Oh my, really? What else do they do?
You can make money from your own podcast with no minimum listenership.
No minimum listenership? Are you kidding?
Yeah, man.
You can just make money from making a podcast?
Yeah,
I didn't know
man.
you could do that.
It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place.
Wait, so you're telling me that if our listeners want to make a podcast, all they have to do is download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm and get started and make their own podcast?
Yes, that's all they have to do is
that's
download.
all they have to do?
the free Anchor app, or go to anchor.fm to get started.
That's absolutely wild. What a great steal.
What a great steal.
Welcome back. Hope you enjoyed the break. Let's just hop into some more fun stories. So here's some more summer fun time, mostly because they deal with water. So the first one that I'd like to speak about actually stems back from my mother. Once again, who would have thought that a lot of the stories that I have from my childhood are from my mom, my family. Who would have thought? But my mom's always had a weirdly innate fear of drowning, specifically when it comes to water. And because of that, we never really went to the lake or the ocean. I live in a small town, but it's a lake town. We actually have a lot of like millionaires that like to move in to our little old town because of the lake that we live on. We have so many just random ass subdivisions that just split off of the main road that just go straight down the river, lake, whatever, yada yada yada, and it's just lake house at the lake house at the lake house. And I believe there's like pro water skiers that live on our lake just because of how smooth the lake is, and they practice on it, and that's just a thing that they do. But as a kid, we rarely went to the lake. And of course, we did have summer vacations where we went to the ocean. But you rarely found my mom ever going into that kind of water. The only place that we ever went to was actually like not public pools. There was lo and behold, the I don't know. It was like a government-esque type deal. It was like a private property pool. Like you had to, well, I guess even the public pool that's here, you have to still pay to go swimming in it. I don't know how pools work. I just realized that. Don't know how pools work. But that's all we really did as a kid. We always went to this pool and we always hung out there, which actually connects to a story that I'll tell after this. But because of my mom's fear of water and drowning, and then in lieu of that, water, me and my sister also got that fear from her. So whenever I go to like the ocean, like I'm not a beach person. I'm not a huge beach person, but that's also because I'm not a heat person. I'm one of those guys that lo and behold, inherited from my mom. Surprise, surprise, throwed the dart at the bullseye. If I'm sitting in like a room that's above 70 degrees Fahrenheit, I just start sweating. Which I believe I said that last episode with Mo, because he was talking about how because we were talking about how the apartment I live in, the AC doesn't work, and downstairs for him, like it's cold in the basement of the house he's living in. And so yeah, I inherited that from my mom. So like going anywhere for summer vacation that's not like north or just like mountain view, like unless it's like a super natural place with mountains and forests, stuff that's typically cooler in the summer. If I'm going to a beach, I'm not gonna say I'm not having a good time. It's just not what I prefer. I much prefer a pool. Which it's actually kind of funny. I think 2 years ago, me and my girlfriend's family went to Florida, and we rented an Airbnb that had a pool. And me and my girlfriend typically actually stayed at the house whenever they left to go to the beach, because we both just preferred swimming in the pool. And that's literally all we would do all day. It's just swim until they got back. Then we'd eat. And then we'd go out and play like putt-putt or some shit. But I can deal with the ocean a lot better than I can deal with lakes. Which is funny because I grew up with lakes. And I wasn't always this way, because I distinctly remember as a kid we would go out on the lake with my dad's boat and like one of those inner tubes that you attach to the back of the boat. And I loved that thing. I rode it all the time. But I also distinctly remember that I hated falling off and into the water. Like I was always super scared whenever I fell into the water. But I guess that just means I like boats and riding in boats or riding things on top of the water. I just don't like being in it. An interesting development into the psyche of Chayton. But I can deal with oceans a whole lot better. And I truly believe it's just because of the clarity of the water. Like, of course, lakes, you literally, you can see like maybe 5 inches below the surface of the water. And then anything past that, it's like murky. It's just murky green. But in an ocean, it's like for the first bit, you can see pretty far. It's literally until the sand like drops off into the ocean type deal where you start running into visibility problems. But if you're going to a nice ocean, like you can see pretty well down into the water. So I can deal with oceans much better than I can deal with lakes, and I truly believe it's down to clarity. And speaking about liking to be in boats, I can transition this into my family loves going kayaking and canoeing. Several times in the summers, we will get together with either other families or friends, and we will go kayaking and canoeing. I own a kayak, and lo and behold, just telling one of my horror stories, talking about not liking lakes. Rivers are the same way for me. Not a big fan of river water, but I can deal with it if I'm in a kayak or canoe. Surprise, surprise. But here, let me grab some water real quick. I'm like getting those like weird like dry hiccups or whatever. I don't know how to explain them. It's like once you've talked too long, your mouth starts getting dry, and then you feel like you have to take a breath every sentence, and it just freaks me out. But just talking about one of my lovely river/lake water horror stories. I think when this was last summer, maybe, yeah. It was like second time, because I had just gotten a new kayak. It was like the second time that I had been able to go out on the kayak, and we were going down the river, and for whatever reason, it had rained a whole lot there recently, so we thought the water level was going to be high, but the river was like dead barren. There were so many stretches where like the water was so low, and it was just like the rocks, and your kayak would just get stuck, and you have to get out and just like drag your kayak for like 50 feet, 100 feet to finally get it back in the water to where you could get in. And that was like the root of all of our problems. Like we were having a lot of issues because it was weird. The water level was super low, but then there were also trees that were like hanging down super low that like prevented you from going certain ways. And what happened, we were actually pretty much near the end of the section that we were going down before we hit like the drop off pickup zone. And there was this low hanging tree branch, and the water was low as well. So it had like that kind of like, yeah, the best way I can describe it is like there's like 3 stages of water in rivers. There's like the super calm water. There's the super low water where the rocks are like almost touching the brim or the top of the water, which causes you to scrape the kayak and it like stops because it can't float on anything. And then there's this weird in between where the water's a little bit too low and the bottom of the river is a little up, and it causes these like super fast rapid-esque deals. So that was what this was. The water was very rapid-like, and there were low hanging branches. And I think, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There were 7 of us. I believe all of us but 2 flipped. And it was literally because we were all trying to space apart, but the problem was that the rapid just picked you up, and then the branch was so low and it was so awkwardly hanging that it was hard to like lean your body under it. So many of us just got like hats caught or our paddles caught or something, and it just completely just like whoop tipped you over. And I was one of the people that like flipped over. And it was it was a bad time. I lost my glasses on that flip. And and I thought I had actually lost my phone because I could not find my phone. And then lo and behold, it was like floating in the water in my kayak. It like flung itself into the back of the kayak, and yeah, it was just a bad time. It was a bad. That's all I can really say about it. It was a bad time. I think my girlfriend and one of the friends that we had invited were the only two that didn't flip. My dad and my mom, after so many years of going canoeing, that was the first ever time they had managed to flip the canoe. So they can change their little clock to years since canoe flipped from like 25 to 0. And yeah, it was just, it's one of those things where like you really don't you kind of forget your fears in a sense until they like happen to you again. And that was one of those instances where I was just having a great old time in my kayak, just going along, enjoying the sun, even though I don't like the hot. You see how hypocritical I am sometimes, but yeah, no, you just flip over, you go right under into that river, lake water, and you're like, oh, well, fuck, I can't see in front of me. And then you have to worry about, oh shit, I'm also trapped in the kayak, so I need to like squirm my way out of the kayak, flip the kayak back over so I don't lose more of my stuff, and then hope and pray I don't hit a log or hit my head and knock myself out and drown. Grand old time. Wow, man. This episode I said was going to end cheerful, but I feel like we're just getting darker and darker. Let's go on a more comedic touch. You know how I said that my family always went to public pools? Well, we're back to that subject because I'm going to be talking about those public pools. So the public pool that we went to was it had the same, it was the same name as the lake that we lived on. And they had diving boards there. That's what I really remember. That was like the main thing, which I feel like most pools have diving boards. But this was the one that we always went to. So these are the diving boards that I'm most fond of. So they of course had two. They had a low one that was like right at the edge of the pool that you could just kind of like get on and jump in. Of course, these were both like, there was like the standard pool that went from like 3 feet deep all the way down to 12 feet. And then the diving boards were on a separate section that you had to like wait in line for and like go to. And it was like 25 to 30 feet deep or something. I don't remember. But they had one that was like low and like right at the edge of the pool's like border. And then they had another one, which was it's not a high dive. One of the tall diving boards. I can't remember the name. It might actually be high dive. And I was young and I was real cocky because I had learned how to start doing flips off the low diving board. And I loved going off the high diving board because it just felt like you were in the air for so long. And this might be a story for another day, but I have, or maybe this is a story for when I actually do it. I had this aspiration. I really want to go skydiving, and I think it kind of stems from this high dive because I love the feeling of just like falling, and then just like, of course I'd have a parachute so I wouldn't crash into the ground, but just that like moment of free fall where you almost feel like weightless in a sense, I guess. I don't know. G-forces. It's weird. But I had gotten super cocky and I was like, you know what? I'm going to do a flip off the high dive. And I got up there and I was like getting cold feet. And like, of course there was like people watching me because there were people that literally just liked, watching people jump off the diving boards. So I had to gain some courage and I started my little run off the diving board. I did my little hop. And I jumped off, I started doing my flip. But here's my first problem. For whatever reason, because of I was somewhat scared to do it off the high dive, I did not give myself enough forward momentum on the push. So I started doing a front flip, but then my momentum just kind of stopped when I was halfway. So then I was falling with my back facing the water. And if you can guess what happens next, just kind of imagine you took a giant cement rod. And you know what a gut punch feels like? All right. Now just take yourself and flip you like a pancake and then experience that to your back. Because I swear, I had belly flopped before, and like, yeah, it like stung your stomach, but it's like, it was kind of whatever. It didn't hurt too bad. Now a back flop. Let me tell you, every particle of air is instantly sucked out of your body. Your entire spine feels like it is a limp spaghetti noodle. And your brain just kind of has like a fucking stroke. Like, it hurt. And all I remember is that as soon as I hit the water and it was just that loud crack, I just heard people go like, ooh. And of course, all the air had been sucked out of me. So I was like, I was kind of losing it underwater. Like I like had that moment of adrenaline, and I was just like struggling, trying to get to the surface of the water and then swim out and climb out. And then like my mom had been watching. She was like, "Are you okay?" And I just kind of gave her like a thumbs up, and I was like, "Yeah." And then yeah, so and then since I was a cocky kid, I decided to just play it cool and then act like nothing was wrong. And that, my friends, is the backflop incident. Now, has this been fun? Would you guys like more of this kind of thing? More of these like story time sessions? I'm sure I can pull a few more of these out of my proverbial mouth hole. I don't know. I just thought this might be a little bit interesting. I know this is a bit of a shorter episode, but I mean, when you don't have someone to bounce off of, when there's not a guest or something, it is a little trickier to fill that kind of void. I'd say this was pretty good. This is only like 10 minutes off our typical like episode target, really. But with that being said, thank you so much for listening to MindMesh. My name is Chayton, and we'll see next time what happens. We might have a guest, we might have more story time, we might do something completely different. Maybe I'll review an album or some shit. I don't know anything about music. What the hell? Reviewing an album sounds like a blast. But you can listen to the MindMesh podcast on all your favorite podcast platforms. It's released on Mondays, 5 p.m. Central Standard Time, and then 2 days later on the MindMesh YouTube channel on Wednesdays at 5 p.m. Central Standard Time. With that being said, my name's Chayton. This has been MindMesh, and come back next time so you can mesh with our minds.